Welcome back. Let's continue to this now. President Ramaphosa has met with his Ugandan counterpart, Yoweri Museveni, in Kampala today. The main focus of the discussion was the prevailing political and security challenges in the Great Lakes region. DRC has been struggling to address the security challenge in both the north and the south. The neighbouring countries such as Uganda and Rwanda have been involved in these skirmishes in the DRC. The recent deployment of SADC troops made up of 2,000 South African soldiers has caused uneasiness in the region. Last week, President Cyril Ramaphosa discussed this matter with President Paul Kagame of Rwanda. As part of seeking political solutions, the South African president is now in Uganda to engage President Museveni. We now cross live to our correspondent in Uganda, Leon Ssenyange. Leon, thank you so much for your time. Perhaps let's start with, the discussion points and what's top on the agenda. One would imagine security and stability are high on that particular agenda, especially in as far as the DRC, as we said, is concerned. Just talk to us about, I know the meetings are ongoing, what we're likely to expect in as far as these talks are concerned.
Well, absolutely. These are the kind of talks that many have been looking forward to, if anything. And now that the fact that SADC has a mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Uganda itself is running an operation, which is the Operation Shuja, that has been running for 2 years, since November 2021, in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, South Africa's involvement, along with Tanzania and Malawi, under the SADC mission in the DRC, is to fight the M23. On the other hand, Uganda is fighting the ADF, that is the Allied Democratic Forces. So the discussion is entirely about the dynamics on how to go about these particular operations. But importantly, though, is to look out to bringing an end to these key rebel groups that have caused quite an amount of unrest in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And it's been a very long period of time in which these armed groups have existed. Putting an end to them has definitely been a difficult one for the DRC. They have called on two other forces, the East African force as well, and now also the SADC forces, a combined force there to try and deal with the insurgencies therein. So the conversation between President Cyril Ramaphosa and Yoweri Museveni definitely falls on those particular matters and how to go about dealing with those kind of armed groups.
You speak, of course, about the instability in the DRC, and I want to ask, in terms of Uganda's role in the Great Lakes region. I mean, what role has Kampala been playing in bringing exactly that, stability in the DRC?
Well, the Great Lakes region itself has been rife with conflict for a very long time. And you could tell very much almost every country within the region itself has had a conflict. You could start from the Far East, which is Somalia. For a very long time, there's been war there. South Sudan North, which of course led to the breakaway of South Sudan. And the conflict still continued. Sudan itself currently is having a political issue. South Sudan has never really settled much. And you cross over to Uganda, that has had its 20-year-long war with the Lord's Resistance Army. That the rebel group was pushed out further into the Central African Republic. Go further to the east, to the western part of Uganda, you have the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has never-ending issues in terms of conflict. Further down south, you have Rwanda, that just as much has had its issues, and Burundi more recently. So the Great Lakes region has had its fair share of conflict. But over the years, there's been a sense of stability, and it varies from country to country. But General Yoweri Museveni therein has championed the cause for regional peace. He's formed the Uganda People's Defense Forces that he has been able to place in several countries, Somalia, South Sudan, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, and he has advocated for regional peace, which of course plays a very huge role in the development of the region, economically, socially, politically. The challenges, though, still remain, of course, with the conflict conflict in the DRC, you have a refugee situation in Uganda, just as much with South Sudan, a refugee situation in Uganda. And so Kampala is sucking up most of the issues that come with the conflicts in its neighboring countries. And that is why it comes out strong to try and establish a level of peace within the countries it neighbors, and just as much for the greater part of the region.
And I want to get to that, especially because we're also looking, of course, at what's happening in Sudan and South Sudan. And of course, we know that there is a conference around areas there. Uganda also, of course, playing a pivotal role here in as far as receiving just some of the refugees from these particular countries. Any indication there on what role, Uganda has been playing, and in as far as these discussions with President Cyril Ramaphosa is concerned especially?
Well, yes, like I said earlier, of course, Uganda is taking in much of the effects of the conflict within its neighboring countries. Only today, a press conference announced that about 33,000 refugees had crossed into Uganda from South Sudan, and probably many of those coming through from the conflict in Sudan. So it creates a very big situation for Uganda that already has about 1.6 million refugees, and the biggest number on the continent of Africa. So it's a strain on resources in terms of health, sanitation, and food itself. There's an outcry for relief coming through for the refugees that Uganda hosts. But that is only part of the problem. The bigger challenge is stopping the conflicts in particularly the eastern part of the DRC. It's very important now to note that South Africa has dipped its hand into trying to stop or bring an end to some of the challenges that the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo is facing. But of course, it's a dicey issue with dealing with the M23 in terms of the SADC mission in Democratic Republic of Congo, and also the Allied Democratic Forces for Uganda. That, of course, brings into the conversation on why President Cyril Ramaphosa was in Rwanda about 10 days ago, meeting the Rwandan President Paul Kagame to discuss the issues therein on the M23 and how they can be dealt with. And it's a group that the Democratic Republic of Congo has continuously accused the Rwandan government of supporting. So it still remains a very dicey issue, but one that many believe could be sorted out now that there seems to be a concerted effort to arriving at a solution.
I suppose we'll know more once you get then that briefing from the two leaders, especially around the questions of possibility of a political solution in as far as this is concerned. But Leon, thank you so much for your time and, of course, that update. That is our correspondent in Uganda, Leon Ssenyange.